Hello, and welcome to the Straight to the Source podcast. I'm Tanya Barr.
And I'm Lucy Allen, and we're looking forward to taking you straight to the source of the people driving our food and hospitality industry forward. If you've flown anywhere recently, chances are you've eaten meals designed by today's guest. Rob Smithson is the Head of Culinary at dnata Catering and Retail, one of the world's largest airline catering businesses. Every day, his team produces thousands upon thousands of meals that must be consistent, safe, on time, and of course, delicious. Today, we're taking you behind the scenes of what that actually looks like.
Today's episode is proudly brought to you by our friends at Unox Australia, industry leaders in cutting-edge kitchen technology and innovation.
Rob, hi, it's great to have you in the studio today.
It's great to be here.
I'm glad we made it work because I know your busy schedule is not easy to fit little time slots into. So it's fantastic. You've been in Sydney working closely with the team for a couple of days.
I have been. I flew in, come in for a couple of days to catch up with the team and a couple of customers, then out again tonight.
Yep, long busy days. So we've all, no doubt, eaten your food without knowing it. Tell us, before we sort of dive into the conversation of your role, what does dnata actually do?
That's a good question. And most people usually say, who is dnata? Because we are a business-to-business entity. Mm-hmm. Most people may or may not see our trucks at the airport, but we're fundamentally everywhere when it comes to airline catering. So dnata is actually one of the world's largest airport services provider.
Right.
Here in Australia, we produce 54 million meals per year and service 250,000 flights annually.
Wow. That's incredible. And I think, once you say that name, you do subliminally realize that sitting on the plane, waiting to roll off the tarmac, you've seen the dnata trucks loading onto the airlines. And so you're servicing domestic, international,
private jets, you name it.
Wow, private jets. I didn't know that. Okay. The volume that you're talking about is really mind-boggling. So 54 million meals a year. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, this year we're on target for 54 million meals a year out of Australia.
Right. So the planning, the logistics behind that is, the complexity must be incredible. Tell us a little bit about a day in the life of your role. What does a typical day look like?
That's probably the fun part. There is no typical day because depending on what's going on in the operations versus customers coming in from charter flights, no day's ever the same.
Okay. So you like that challenge of constantly changing, very dynamic environment.
Yeah, well, you never get bored. In the aviation industry, I can tell you after nearly 20 years, there's never a dull moment.
Okay. So if there's no typical day, what are the key sort of focuses of your role? What are the things that you're responsible for?
So as Head of Culinary, I look after all the menu development side and the product selection, and then obviously its performance in the kitchen for on board. So we're forever working with producers on new products and seeing what's coming in season, out of season, working on menu ideation and development, because based on our customer base of nearly 50 international customers, we're pretty much every week designing a new menu for another customer to go on board.
Right. So you've got a lot of stakeholders. It's not that you're just sort of designing, one menu for one season. You've got all those multiple different airlines and their cultural values and their different focuses of what they would like to showcase.
There's so many touch points. It's not as simple as just producing a menu and you can dust your hands and that's off. There's so many cogs in this machine.
Wow. Okay. So where do the pressure points lie in that kind of environment? There's obviously a lot to think about day to day, week to week, month to month. But how do you break that down and how do you tackle it? Just give us an example maybe of how you go through the process of designing a menu just for one customer.
Well, it's very much based on reverse engineering. So it actually starts with looking at who the customer is, where their background is, where they're flying to, where they're flying from, what's their cultural background, any limitations. And then from there, we look at the complexities around potentially equipment, service delivery on board. Then we look at materials, the time of year they're looking to fly, time of day they're looking to fly, and then it just continues to go backwards.
Wow. Okay. So a lot of considerations. So what is it that you enjoy the most about what you do?
I think because we've got such a great customer portfolio and from being in Australia with such good produce, we can be so creative in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we're not stuck in a box having to continuously focusing on one cuisine, doing the same thing over and over with a different twist.
Mm-hmm.
We can be much more broader and creative with that. And we've got some great produce in Australia to showcase.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say you want to put a fish dish on the menu. Where do you start with that process? Do you start with the species that you're going to use? Do you start with some flavor combinations? Just take us through that process a little bit.
So fish is a great example. For us, it's about sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
As in, obviously, you can focus on line-caught fish, but depending on the volumes you're looking at, for us, it's about we don't want to rape and pillage the seas.
Mm-hmm.
So we predominantly go for a farm fish because we know supply consistency and availability is there. And especially if you've got airlines that are planning and menu carding, the last thing you want to do is print that you've got, line caught salmon on the menu, but in reality, you can't get it.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, I can imagine you're dealing with very long lead times. Would that be right?
Yeah. So when you're planning a menu for an airline, if we develop a menu this week,
mm-hmm.
it will not be implemented for at least 3 to 6 months. And then it may cyclic rotate around multiple menu cycles for up to 2 years. So you have to have that foresight of your planning around not what is it available today? Is it available tomorrow? And will it be available next year?
Yeah, which is a huge consideration. And so I understand why you would look to those aquaculture and farm sort of species to give you that volume and consistency. And when you are doing that planning, what are you thinking about also in terms of sort of flavor combinations, but also trends? Like, do trends come into consideration when you're...
trends, no different to the restaurants.
Yep.
We're watching not just local food trends, but international food trends to see how we can incorporate that into the design.
Yep.
Obviously, we're looking at the cultural background of the airline because we don't want to offend anybody,
mm-hmm.
but we really are looking at what does the consumer want?
Yeah, absolutely. And then to add another layer of complexity, and you did touch on it, you've then got to think about... dietaries, but also allergens. And I mean, that in and of itself is a very complex environment to navigate.
It's its own challenging ecosystem. We've seen an increase in special meals, but that's what we call most of our diets as classed as special meals.
Yep.
A 5%, 10% increase year on year. We're seeing those trends of lifestyle diets just slowly picking up momentum.
Yeah. Okay. So where do you see that heading at the moment? There are some sort of trends that we've identified are coming through this year. It feels like, protein's been a really big focus, and I think fiber's really beginning to sort of push forward.
That's definitely the next trend. So we have to try and keep up with those trends, but also keep the food fun, acceptable for mainstream. What we're seeing is a lot of technology being introduced by airline customers, where pre-ordering and pre-selection is becoming much more mainstream for people that want to know exactly what they're eating on board.
Yeah, so they want that confidence that they know exactly what they're going to get. It fits in with their preferences and their lifestyle choices, and of course it needs to be delicious.
Yeah, definitely.
As well. So people, I think, might have this assumption that high volume equals lower quality. So what are the systems, the equipment, the technologies that you use to protect quality when you're producing food at this volume and high level?
Yeah, we get that question a lot, as in it's detail. Everything we do when we develop food is no different to a restaurant. We're looking at that meticulous detail and then working through what's the touch points, the training and communication in our industries is key. So how do you work with the corporate chefs to design the dish with the customer and then translate that down to an operational juggernaut of a shop floor, but not lose that eye to detail and finesse when you're going into producing something in the thousands, if not tens of thousands every day.
Yeah, I can imagine that isn't an easy task. And in terms of, safety, timing, also altitude, I wanted to ask you about altitude because I've read that altitude affects your taste buds. So how do you sort of adapt and plan menus to navigate that as well?
So there is taste bud suppression when you're going up at that type of altitude. The aircraft that we fly in now is much better than where it was 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's more moisture in the cabin, better pressure. Like, it doesn't matter if you're in a restaurant or in an airline kitchen, it's taste and season. You're looking for ingredients that have natural umami. Everything has to taste good on the ground. Otherwise, it's not going to taste good in the air.
Yeah. But do you need to enhance those flavors? Do they become a little bit more subdued with altitude? Is that right?
They do. That's where you have to be so precise in your seasoning and making sure that the flavors, if they're punchy, they're really punchy, because if you're off the mark, once you get into the air, you'll be that little bit further off the mark.
Yeah. So do you taste them on the ground and in the air before you sign off on anything?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There is a lot of R&D and work. And it's not even just at the development piece. It's the scheduled audits. We're checking food daily to make sure that it is 100% what we want it to be and the customer wants it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And then added to that, you obviously have a team of very talented chefs on the ground who are paying a lot of attention to detail, like you just said, and I'm sure it's down to the absolute gram to get these flavor profiles right at both those stages of tasting on the ground and in the air. But then it also then needs to be managed by the cabin crew and served in a way that you've designed it to be served. So just how does that process work from the point of you creating a dish to it then being served on board?
That's very much a partnership with the airline as well, because as a caterer, we look at educating our staff and making sure that the concept is managed all the way through to delivery. But there's a lot of crew training and documentation to support that, because it's a bit of a game of, call it Chinese whispers, where there's a few of us that know what it should be, and then you're passing it along the line and hoping that when it hits the plate, it looks like what it should have to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're also working in partnership with a number of chefs and a very high-profile chefs. So I know Qatar Airways and Ross Lusted is a partnership that came online last year. So talk about that. How do you build that relationship with Ross, for example, so that, it's not just you guys doing the incredible work you do on the ground, but you've got to make Ross's food shine in the air as well?
I think it's chefs, as in good chefs, whether it's a restaurant, an airline, there's a mutual respect, and it's educating each other. As in, Ross will have his creative vision. It's how do we take that creative vision and then translate it into something that's going to work on board an aircraft, and that's going to, celebrate who he is on board, because it's his name that people are going to be reading on the menu. It just happens to be produced by dnata.
Yeah. So is there one dish that you've worked with Ross that you're particularly excited about?
He's got some great menus flying at the moment on Qatar. There's an upcoming menu change coming very soon.
Okay.
I wouldn't say there's any one, but he's got some really good, bold, punchy flavors that are very much on trend and on point. So I don't want to be the spoiler.
Okay.
I'll leave that to him.
Watch this space or book a ticket on Qatar Airlines to try it out. And so where do you find inspiration? So coming back to the sort of the start of the process, when you're thinking about menus, we've touched on, trends and what consumers want. But where do you draw your inspiration from?
I know myself, as in I'm forever seeing what people are doing overseas, locally. We're lucky enough that because we travel so much, we're forever eating out, trying different food. And then even from a producer perspective, we get some great produce and new projects or produce and ideation coming through from producers that as soon as you see it, your creative juices just start flowing, thinking, what can we do with this?
Yeah, well, we've had a lot of fun with you and your team on the Source Kitchen at Fine Food, for example. We are talking to producers and showcasing their products, and then, seeing the journey you've gone on with talking to them more about how you could showcase it on your menus. But that's actually not an easy task to do when we think about the volume, the timeframes that you were just talking about before. So how do you go about working with Australian and artisan producers and working that into a global business? How do you manage the sort of scale that you need to work on? I know we touched on it with fish, but
it definitely is a long journey. It's very rare that with an artisan producer you can just pick something up and run with it. It is that collaborative partnership where when you can see someone who has got the capabilities and the skills and the want, as in it's taking that time and going through the process. Our food safety is paramount. Safety is the biggest thing in aviation. So that's what we focus on initially, making sure no matter what's going to be produced is safe. And then it's working through the scalability and making sure if we do take on a product that we're not going to get 3 days worth and then run out, because most producers think that they've got high capacity until they see our numbers and their jaws drop.
Yeah, and it is that scale that's probably the biggest consideration. So it's being very selective about what will work in those sort of the considerations of scale and time frame, and then working very closely with them to make that relationship a viable one for both businesses. And then in terms of other collaborations, I mean, I know you work very closely with a lot of industry associations because you showcase an incredible array of Australian produce on the airlines. Talk us through how some of those collaborations work in terms of also team education and development.
Yeah, obviously I'm part of the MLA Red Meat Ambassadors, so we've got a very strong collaboration with the MLA. And it's like you said, it's not just about the product, it's that education and people understanding not just where it comes from, but how to best use it and get the best out of it. So we have those programs and sessions that we do not just in the kitchen, but out on farm, in TAFE colleges, where we're educating our people on the product, and what to look for, what to look out for, and then just how to respect it and cook it properly.
Yeah. And so, again, coming back to menu design and consideration, if we think about the whole beast and this, idea of zero waste and using as much of the beast as we possibly can, you're going through that process of not just using some prime cuts, but also working out how you can integrate some of the secondary cuts as well.
So we've got a very, very big program, what we call Paddock to plain. So we're looking at that nose to tail because we're conscious that the volume of produce that we consume is phenomenal. So to put it in perspective, last financial year, just fresh red meat, so beef and lamb, we consumed 600 tonne of fresh beef and lamb last year. And that's not taking into consideration any of the value-added small goods or anything else. That's purely fresh protein. So we're very conscious that we've got a responsibility to make sure if an animal's died that we're using every part and we're not just taking the primal cuts and then just leaving the secondary out, because that's not the right thing to do and that's not sustainable.
Yeah. But also I imagine it's a good strategy from a menu cost perspective as well, because you've got to consider, I imagine you're working to very precise budgets to create these meals as well.
Yeah, and we have the fun of producing the high-end food in first and business class, but we also have our high volume, which it's in economy, which the budgets are obviously relative to the class, and that's where we are really tipping in heavily into those secondary cuts and then challenging ourselves is there something that we've missed or forgotten or haven't traditionally used that we can pick up.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so talking about your team, I know you do invest a lot of time and resources in training and mentoring them. Can you talk to us a little bit about your approach to recruitment and to team development? Because as we said, this isn't an industry that many people would maybe, think about they might have a career pathway in because it's often an invisible part of our industry.
It is, and Australia-wide at the moment, operationally, we've got about 240 full-time chefs that we employ, and then we also utilise labour hire to support that, and there's another 100 chefs there, so around 350 chefs.
And that's the team you're managing?
Yeah, that's the operational side of the team. My direct team, I'm lucky enough to have a team of corporate chefs that look after the front-end development. So there's 6 corporate chefs looking after Australia that focus purely on menu development and implementation.
Right. Okay. And so what are you looking for in those chefs? When you're recruiting, what are the key skills that you're on the hunt for?
Well, no different to a restaurant. So our corporate chefs, most of them come from either a Michelin star or 5-star hotel background. So no different to what any high-end restaurant would be looking at, because we need that pedigree and those skills in our business to deliver what we need. And same with the operational chefs. We need high-skilled chefs that know how to cook authentic cuisines. With a customer base of 50 international customers, they all come from different parts of the world, and they have their own skill sets built into that. So if you want to learn how to cook Thai food, we have to have Thai chefs, and not just good Thai chefs, great Thai chefs.
Yeah, absolutely. Because obviously, that sort of foundational education from a Michelin background of, those classic French techniques aren't necessarily going to translate to these other, multicultural cuisines that you need to produce at a high level. So you've got a very multicultural team.
Yes, very much. And a lot of it, and the skill set we've got, is taking these people who've got great culinary skills and teaching them the different type of skills, how you can scale something from 1 portion, 2 portions to 1,000. That is a skill in itself.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not really just 1,000, is it? It's thousands.
No, it's thousands.
And so talking about producers and ingredients, are there any Are there any producers you're working with at the moment or any ingredients that you're particularly excited about that you're introducing to the menus?
We're always working on something. I wouldn't say there's any one that I'd call out saying, watch this space. Indigenous is very much back on the table. We're doing a lot of work in that space.
Mm-hmm.
We've also done a recent collaboration in our Melbourne site with Green Space. So growing our own micro herbs on site, which has been very, very successful.
So you're growing them on site, harvesting them and using them in meals?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So again, to minimise that footprint of buying from a market and transporting it and losing 3 to 5 days life, we're cultivating on site and we're able to call it harvest today, to be used tonight, to be gone tonight or tomorrow morning.
And obviously maximising the flavour, the nutrient impact and all of those aspects, which is amazing. And then just going back to Indigenous and native ingredients, I mean, there's just been so much progress in that space. Sharon Windsor was, she held the first Australian Native Ingredient Festival in Sydney last year. And there's just been so much, I think, education and awareness around sourcing those ingredients through ethical and transparent, supply chains. But it's wonderful to see them being integrated into everyday meals in a much more general sense. And is that something that are you using them just as an additional sort of layer of flavour and seasoning, or how are you integrating them into your menu?
That's probably the best way to put it, is integrating. As in, we want to see these native ingredients used, I would say mainstream, but every day. We shouldn't need to, call them out, as in they're normal, because they're great. We shouldn't have to wait to use them. We should be using them.
Yeah, absolutely. And celebrating them at the same time. So we've worked on a number of industry trade shows with you as well, panel discussions, demonstrations. Talk to us a little bit about your sort of role in that thought leadership space, because you are very active in contributing to, education and where the industry is heading, what the industry needs. Is that a part of the role that you enjoy and embrace?
I love talking about what I do and what we do as a business and the industry that we're in, but I'm also very passionate about the next generation, because if we don't invest our time and effort into educating the next generation, we won't have any chefs left.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that, that it's incredibly important, and it's incredibly important to give time to do that, which I know you do a lot of. You started your career at quite a young age, and you had an incredible list of mentors that I've read about: Chong Lu, Matt Moran, Jacques Raymond.
I was very lucky. I started my career when I was 15. I always wanted to do it. There was nothing else I wanted to do.
Okay.
And I was privileged enough to be given opportunities. And when I joined the Hilton Group, it provided those opportunities to work with some amazing chefs in some locations and really hone my skills and learn the techniques and that eye to detail to allow me to grow my career. Yeah.
So did 15-year-old Rob envisage that you would end up as head of culinary of this global business?
No.
So what did that journey, what do you think your sort of journey and your mentorships, how did they prepare you for this role, or how didn't they? When you came into it, was it just this whole new world, or were you ready for it?
I'm not sure anyone could really be ready for it. I think it's been a hell of a ride and growing, but it's just staying on those foundations, as in quality, consistency, and teamwork. As in, you cannot do it alone, and you'll only fail if you try. It requires many people doing the right thing to get to where we've got to.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do it very, very well. So for people who are building a career in food and hospitality, whether it's in the kitchen or front of house, what's one bit of advice you'd give them?
Be resilient, keep at it, and don't give up. And be open to opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when those doors crack open, instead of kind of not pushing it open and wondering, just push it open, see what happens. If it doesn't work out, move on.
You learn from failure.
Yeah. Okay. And on a day off, do you get days off?
I do get days off.
What does good food look like to you? Do you like cooking at home? Do you like dining out? Combination of both?
I love cooking at home.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. That's my therapy, is cooking. There's nothing better than just being able to be in my kitchen or in my backyard, cooking something for my family and friends and just enjoying myself.
Okay, wonderful. What would you be cooking if you could just...
Oh, that's such a hard one. Everyone asks that one.
What might you cook this Saturday night?
I will probably selfishly have a lamb shoulder on the smoker out the back while I'm sitting in the pool doing absolutely nothing.
Glass of red wine in hand?
Maybe.
Wonderful. All right. Well, we're going to finish off with a quick fire. A quick fire at 35,000 feet.
Oh.
One word answers. First thing that comes to mind. Coffee or champagne?
Oh, coffee.
Window or aisle?
Oh, window.
Breakfast or dinner service?
Oh, dinner.
Paris or Tokyo?
Probably Tokyo.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that would be my pick. Pasta or rice?
Oh, pasta.
Fresh or fermented?
Fresh.
Native ingredient or classic staple?
Native.
Local produce or global flavour?
Local.
Would you be sleeping, watching movies, listening to music, or reading?
Probably listening to music.
Okay. And what's your next destination?
Home.
Short hop home.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Rob, it's been really wonderful to have you in the studio and to have a look behind the scenes of a part of our industry that I think people don't think about or see. The scale, the collaboration, the passion that drive what you and your team do is really inspiring. So thank you so much for taking us inside your world and behind the scenes at dnata. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with before we wrap things up?
No, thank you very much. It's been great fun.
Yeah, it's been really great to have you here, and we look forward to seeing what's next on our next flight, wherever that might be.
Yep, watch this space.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening in. We really hope you enjoyed the conversation.
We would be keen to hear from you if you have a story to share or a topic we should bring into our conversations. And a special thank you to Unox Australia for their support in this series, where leadership meets the future of food.